Hello, today we are going to learn about verbs. We have a couple of objectives or goals. You do not have to write these down in your notebook, but the first objective is that we want you to be able to define verb, and we want you to be able to define action verbs in particular. I can list 3 types of verbs. Those are action, linking, and helping. And I can identify if an action verb is a physical or a mental action. Okay, so today we are learning specifically about action verbs. You're going to learn what all 3 types of verbs are, but we're going to focus on action verbs and being able to tell if it's a physical or mental action. All right, so let's get started by going to our notebook, and we should have downloaded slides on verbs, note slides on verbs, and put them into our own digital notebooks. So first of all, what is a verb? When we're in elementary school, we are taught that a verb is an action word. It's what someone is doing in the sentence. And that is true, but a verb does more than that. So a verb can express an action, a condition, or a state of being. And today we're just talking about the action verbs. And tomorrow or the next day, we'll talk about verbs that express condition. Those are called linking verbs. And state of being are also called linking verbs. And then we'll learn about helping verbs, which help express or clarify something about that action. So the 3 kinds of verbs. The first one is called action verbs. The second is called a linking verb. And the last are helping verbs. And you'll see that those are also right here, action, linking, and helping. So what are they? What's the difference between them? The one we're going to talk about today are action verbs, and action verbs tell what the subject of the sentence does. So an action is something that someone does or that something does. The subject of the sentence is who or what the sentence is about. It's going to be a noun. I'll write that in parentheses. So the main noun that the sentence is about, what is that person or thing doing? Okay, a linking verb expresses linking verb expresses the condition of the subject of the sentence. So if the sentence is about the chair, it might say the chair looks big. And it's expressing the condition of bigness. The chair is big. We'll talk about those later on. And helping verbs are used to form a verb phrase. And by phrase, we just mean more than one word. So if I say, I should be running right now. Should, be, and running are all 3 verbs in that sentence. So it's a verb phrase because there's more than one verb. We'll talk about helping verbs in the future. Today, let's just focus on action verbs. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which is my action verbs slide. So what does an action verb do? I'm going to take this definition now and just focus on it. It tells what the subject of the sentence does. Okay, and again, the subject is who or what the sentence is about. So it's telling what they're doing. There are 2 kinds of action verbs. You can have physical action verbs, and those are things that you can see. You can see or hear someone doing. For example, I can see someone jump. I can see someone walk. I could hear someone say something to me. I can hear them talk. Or I could see somebody reach for the pencil sharpener. Okay, so those are all verbs, things that people do that, so they're action verbs, and they're physical actions because they can be seen or heard. You can experience them with your five senses. You can see them, smell them, taste them, touch. You could, if someone was reaching, I could physically reach out and touch their arm while it was reaching. Okay. The other kind are called mental actions. So mental action verbs. And these are things that people do, but we can't see them doing it. So for example, dream. We cannot see someone dreaming, but they're still doing it. Believe. I cannot see you believing in Santa Claus, but believing is still something you are doing. Think. I cannot see you think about what the answer is, but you're doing it. Imagine. I cannot see you imagining. I cannot hear you imagining, but imagining is still something that your mind is doing. It's a mental action. You're mentally doing it. And another example is to wish. I wish that I didn't have to learn about verbs. I cannot see you wishing that, and I cannot hear you wishing that unless you choose to say it out loud. If you say your wish out loud, then the verb to say would be a physical action. But if your wishing is happening in your mind, then it's mental action. Okay. So now we know the difference between physical and mental actions. You're going to go back into Schoology and you're going to do some, look at some sentences and identify what the main verb is. So that would be.
Just a reminder to teachers and coaches signing up kids for winter sports, they do not need bus passes today.
Okay, so sorry for that interruption. So you can identify the verb in a sentence and tell if it's physical or mental. So you're going to work on a project in Schoology to practice that skill of identifying physical or mental action verbs in a sentence. All right, if you are confused right now, raise your hand and get help from the teacher. And if you're not confused, then go to Schoology and move on to the next task.